small businesses can compete and you can live in the middle if you have a unique offer. And so if you can develop something unique and you can work with people, business suddenly becomes extremely simple.
This is the Startup Junkies podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. My name is Daniel Koonce, and I am joined here today with my co-hosts, Jeff Amerine and Harrison Kitson. Jeff and Harrison, how are we doing today?
Hey, it's Friday and it's March Madness. How bad could it be, right?
It's hard to complain right now, isn't it? Well, we are joined with our new friend, John Ferrante from EO Space. He's the co-founder there. John, how are we doing?
We're doing great. It's a beautiful day over here, and I'm just happy to be with a lot of friends, a lot of new faces, and I'm excited to share my story a little bit and hopefully bring some value or just some inspiration to anybody listening.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, the way we like to kind of kick these things off, give us the elevator pitch for EO Space.
Yeah, EO Space, we're a design studio at the core. We're a small team. We're based in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We've bounced across a couple different places in Arkansas, but we've always found Fayetteville to be our true home. We're a design studio. We work with consumer brands to tell their story and to create a visual experience for them. And so, brands are asking a lot of hard questions about how they're going to compete in a market, especially within product spaces where there's so many new players and it's very fragmented. And so we help them stand out on the shelf across different categories you might find throughout a Costco or even in different environments. And so mostly work with founders, work with some big names as well. And it's just been an amazing journey. It's been about 5 years. I've grown a lot. And I know my team has too. And this is a milestone for us. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit the 5-year mark. Congratulations. I know that's always a big box to check. Tell us a little bit about your involvement and how you became the co-founder. What's your background?
You hear these podcasts, right? And you listen, and you always want your story to be something dazzling. You want it to be romantic. But what happened was I have an old friend, and he gives me a call and sells me on the dream of Arkansas. And he says, there's something special here. He had been there for some time. And so I just quit my job and jumped on the ship. Within a month's time, I'm in Fayetteville on a couch with some friends and trying to make it happen. And, that's the origin. And from the beginning, I've always been focused on business development. Our core competency is design and visual work. I'm not a designer. I understand business, though, and how to collaborate with creative and our clients. And so my job is always thinking about the future, thinking about growth, thinking about our promises that we've kept to the market, as a brand, as well as to our clients, and thinking about how we can compete. Design is extremely competitive. And even in Arkansas, you have players who have been around for a long time. They're great examples. But throughout the country and throughout the world, design is extremely competitive. And so, that's something that I'm always keeping my ear on the ground for and trying to think, how can EO stand out? And so that's my job.
What's been the most surprising thing over the course of the last 5 years? You joined based on the faith you had in your co-founder and the promise of Arkansas. What's been the most surprising thing you've learned over the last 5?
Are we talking, Jeff, in the context of Arkansas or just as an entrepreneur?
No, as an entrepreneur, more of your journey. What's as you think about how you all built the business, the agency, what's been the most surprising thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's so many different thoughts I have. And I imagine there's a lot of different entrepreneurs listening. And so when I think about an entrepreneur on the other end of this call, and one of the many things I've learned is that business is extremely difficult, but there's something about it that is incredibly simple. And at the heart of it, it is just about working with people and keeping your promises. And if you can work with people and have a good heart and a good product or a good service, you can make it happen. And, there's a lot of fundamental misunderstandings about what it means to be successful as a business. People want to be, a Fortune 500. They want to be a Steve Jobs. They want to be someone, on these global levels, but small businesses can compete and you can live in the middle if you have a unique offer. And so if you can develop something unique and you can work with people, business suddenly becomes extremely simple. And whenever I first started out as an entrepreneur, it was so many whiteboard conversations, it was so much complexity. It was strategy. It was things that live in a conceptual level. But whenever you put pen to paper, it's really about meeting new people and sticking to your promise, and keeping your ear to the ground and always learning. And so my lesson that I really learned that is sort of a mantra is how can we distill all the literature of business into a simple lifestyle of just serving others and always growing. And if you can do that, then you can be successful. And there's a new standard. It doesn't have to be on that global Fortune 500 scale. You can be successful locally as within a specific segment, and success is really up to you. And so that's something that I've learned as a leader, and trying to manage expectations and think about where do we belong.
That's great. I mean, it sounds like you've developed a strong culture as part of what you're doing, and the brand promise is reflective of that. So good on you. That's great.
Thank you. On the note of culture is a really interesting topic. As you know, whenever you're a co-founder or whenever you start a business, you don't always know what you sign up for. You just develop a product, you develop a service, you develop an idea. But then business is also an ecosystem of things, and the way ideas come to life live in our collaborations. It lives in our environment. And being within a design studio, we're extremely sensitive to that. And so that's not something that I've always been super excellent at. That's something that I've had to learn that, this is an element of business that I need to become more familiar with and appreciate more. And so that's one of the things that I'm continuing to learn. How can we develop our culture inside? How does that influence our collaboration style, the value we offer? And so 5 years in, lots to learn, lots have learned, and 5 years out, still lots to learn. And that's one of those elements.
You before you talked a little bit about how personal success can be. Can you talk us a little bit through kind of what success can be defined as in terms of EO space and also in terms of you as a small business owner and entrepreneur yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. It really comes down to what you want and what is feasible for you. And for example, my agency could have 5 to 10 consistent contracts, and that is success for us. We have partners who are super streamlined and they have success. Maybe they have other jobs. We also have partners who are, 25 to 50 employees plus, and they're always thinking about how, and they want to open an international office, et cetera. And so which of those is the standard? Let's say us as a team wanted to start a studio and start an agency. Would we look to example A as a standard or example B? It would really come down to what we, Daniel, Harrison, Jeff, Lucas, what we want and what the market is willing to endorse and what there's room for. And so when you're talking about success, there's an element of what we want as a team, as well as what is feasible within the market. And so you go in there as an entrepreneur seeing these standards, seeing these people you admire, reading these stories, and you think that's what you're like. It's venture capital, it's big money, it's people across the world endorsing your brand. But there's really scale to success, and there's a lot of pie. Especially online, I'm not going to, rant about all the opportunity of digital, but, so success is actually more than ever a personal pursuit, and so we don't need that billboard ad anymore to be successful. And so, if I worked with different entrepreneurs, mentoring or being a leader in different ways. I'm always trying to help them temperature check what they're comparing themselves to, and to be more sympathetic to what's possible for them. Otherwise, you can burn out thinking, "Oh, I'm not the next Steve Jobs or something." It's not the right thought process. And so, I hope that answers the question. But yeah.
I like that bit you just said. You said success is personal. On your website, you describe, EO space as being a people-friendly design studio. What does that mean to be people-friendly?
Marketing, we're ultimately in the game of marketing. At the end of the day, it's all about customer centricity. And today, businesses and their customer bases are so fragmented, and you can really lean into a very specific segment and a very specific lifestyle. And so people friendly is our mantra. For one, we always position ourselves as a relational agency. So we're really focused on the person on the end of the call and what their story is. We work with founders, mostly working directly with them, and they're very attached to their business. For example, if somebody were to serve me in my agency, maybe as an external consultant, working with me would be much different than maybe if they were to work with a manager underneath me, because I've just been here from the beginning and I'm very attached to this. And so we introduce ourselves as a partner to them, and we let them know that a relationship is, as an agency, is very close to a relationship you have in real life. It's iterative. There's a learning process. There's going to be times where we might, collaborate on something, and the answer does not simply present itself, and we have to go through that process. And so we always let them know the relationship comes first, and because it's people first. I mean, our clients who are co-founders, are very attached to the business. They find a sigh of relief in that, because a lot of the time their experiences with other designers it gets lost in translation. But then on the other end is a part of our service promise where we're always focused on customer centricity, and how your consumers are people, and they're scrolling, they're experiencing the same things that we are as people. And so we can't get caught up in the notion that they're just going to buy our product because we're selling them on this, just what makes it special. You have to think deeper about the emotional experience that your customer is having with your brand, because they're people. And we can all relate to the fact that, we're ignoring ads every day. Let's not think that we deserve attention just because we want it. And so, all these things. So it's all about how we're positioning ourselves to a partner, as a partner, as well as how we're helping our customer examine their customer in more depth. And so, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Jeff, can you attest to that, working with people you have relationships with is a little easier?
No, it's the whole deal, really. I mean, this is your business. Our business is a trust-based business. Mm-hmm. That starts with the trust that you have with other team members, and that trust conveys to the people that want to work with you. And there's a value in that. I mean, it's a lot of gratification comes from that. And it's actually kind of a good setup to a follow-on. As I listen to you talk and your commitment to focusing on the customer, mm-hmm. to the extent that you can talk about it, what's one of the coolest campaigns or projects that you worked on, and why? Why did you enjoy it? Why was it cool? Why were you excited about the results? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Without giving away any names, if you need to sanitize it because of client confidentiality, that's fine. But I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I would say, and this is fresh off my mind, we're working on a project right now that is probably a story. Let's say that EO were to cease to exist. I will tell the story of this client probably for the rest of my life. It is essentially an alternative drink that is going to be going to market soon across the country. And it has won for its innovations several awards throughout the world for its recipe. And we've gotten to work directly with this founder to develop his customer experience and outline his brand experience. And it has been about a 6 to 9 month process, which is a long time. And given the accolades with this product, given his experience as an entrepreneur, we consider being able to work on that project a huge milestone. And because they're already getting so much interest in the market, people see our work every day, maybe because it's online. We've had work featured in different publications, but this time the world's going to see it in a serious way. And people who are the true tastemakers within the alternative product space are going to be examining our work and thinking about how we're contributing to the higher standard of that. And so that put a fire on our butt. Just because one, it's a great opportunity for us from a deal perspective, but also a learning perspective, but also from a competitive perspective. And so we're
elements of adrenaline associated with that. I mean, I can sense the adrenaline, the rush that you got from being part of something that looks like it's going to be a big hit.
It's going to be a big hit. And, feedback is not always what you fancy. Like, maybe some people be like, who made this? We're like, whatever. Like, we have experience with that. In my personal life, I'm a musician and I love to make music. And, part of that journey was lots of failure. And maybe that's helped me, as a co-founder of a business like this, understand that that's part of the game. And you're probably not doing something right if everybody likes it. You can't please everybody. And so, yeah, total adrenaline, even just talking about it. I'm excited and I'm always going to tell that story.
Are you an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur looking to get plugged into the ecosystem? We host a ton of events designed for education, inspiration, and collaboration, from weekly meetups to quarterly events like pitch competitions and annual events like our marquee event, the Startup Crawl, which is the largest startup party in Arkansas. Check out our event page on our website, sign up, and we'll see you there.
I am going to point out your hat. There's a reason we're not meeting in person. You're a Fayetteville-based company, but we're not meeting in person. Yeah. Where are you right now?
I'm currently in Dallas. So I am in Dallas because I'm enrolled in an MBA program at SMU. And so I've done that for the past year. I felt like it, and not to make it too much about it, but I felt like I didn't know what I didn't know as a co-founder, as a business owner. And so I thought, how can I put myself in a room where there's a really strong culture of excellence and I'm probably going to be getting outperformed? And that's exactly what it's been like for the past 10 months, where I've been in rooms with people who I'm just like, wow, I didn't know it could get that serious. Right. And so I'm currently in Dallas doing my MBA and finishing up in May. Or I'm sorry. In May. Yeah.
Congratulations ahead of time. That's awesome.
That's great. Right around the corner. Good on you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a lot of work, a lot of long hours. I'm talking 80 hours a week just between doing EO as well as the MBA. But honestly, I thought if I don't do it now, I'll probably never do it. That was my thought process. So,
is there anything that kind of keeps you driven as you're going through those 80-hour work weeks? I know me in my 35-hour work weeks, sometimes there's days I really don't want to come into the office. How do you kind of keep getting up every morning and feel motivated to want to get better and want to improve your business and want to improve yourself and all those kind of things?
I love that question. So I'm actually, I'm an officer for the Business School's Entrepreneurship Club as well. And so tomorrow, actually, I'm going to be hosting a workshop where there's going to be two speakers sharing their story of entrepreneurship, resiliency, thinking like a CEO, with other entrepreneurs in Dallas. And I'm going to be hosting it. And, that's tomorrow, something I have to prepare for. And when I go up to the podium, and I'm a part of this platform, I really want to feel like I earned it. And I found myself to have a really loud conscience when I feel like I don't. And I feel like, I just got thrown this and, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I don't want to feel like that. I want to earn those positions and I want to feel worthy of them. And so, it's not a perfect system. I'm just a person like everybody else. But, I think what motivates me most is that I just want to be a good person and I want to contribute and I want to not hide anything. I want to feel like I earned it and I put in the hours and that people can trust me to be that leader. And so you get the most motivation when you kind of remove yourself from the thought process, to stop making yourself the center of it, because you're always going to be content with, a messy room, or a just anything, a lower salary, whatever it is you might be pursuing, but when you think about your team, when you think about your community, you're like, oh, they deserve a higher standard of work. And so that really motivates me. Everybody has a different cup of tea. And, that's actually something that I've realized within this MBA, how much community is important to me. And so if you don't feel like that, if you're listening right now and you're not feeling that vibe, it could be one of two things. One, maybe that doesn't work for you, but two, maybe you haven't realized how important people are yet, and you haven't leaned enough into them. And so I would give that a shot, and see how it becomes a new variable in your day-to-day motivation.
That's good words, John. I've got 4 kids and 5 grandkids, and I'm sure I wore my kids out when they were small by saying there's no prize for being average. Notwithstanding participation trophies, there's no real prize for being average. So if you're going to waste your time doing it, you have limited heartbeats, you may as well do it well. And that you mentioned a culture of excellence also, and I think those are the things that have to drive you as an entrepreneur, a co-founder. You've got to constantly be driven, a little hungry. And I know for me in multiple startups, there was always this feeling that it could all go away tomorrow. And I better do everything I could do in terms of work ethic to make sure it didn't. And it sounds like you're wired a lot the same way. I mean, that'd be a fair statement.
Yeah, absolutely. And, your kids, I don't know how old they are, but, maybe they're like, oh, Dad, but my dad was kind of the same way. And I really appreciated as I got older. And so hopefully, their battle cries aren't weighing down on you too much. Don't give up. Don't take your foot off the gas.
A lot of them, they didn't want to know me from age about 13 to early 20s. And then they realized I wasn't completely crazy. They're all sort of adults now. They realized that, the old man knew a thing or two.
Absolutely. I tell my mom and my dad, and I'm just like, okay, you're right. And
you don't know how gratifying that is for them. Keep telling them that.
I'm telling them, even on the simple things, like, I'm a single man, and like my mom is always like, oh, you got a girlfriend? I'm like, no, not yet. And then, I'll go on a date or two. She gives me some advice. I'm like, and she's like, bring flowers. I'm like, all right, I'll bring flowers. And the girl of it, she's like, nobody's ever brought me flowers. And I was like, and so I was like, Mom, you're right. And she's
some of that old school wisdom is pretty solid. There's no doubt about it.
It is. I hope to offer some to my kids one day.
Well, John, you mentioned community earlier, and this is a really common theme that we talk about on these podcasts. Community is just so important. I'd like to know, what is the difference between the community in the entrepreneurial space in Northwest Arkansas and Dallas? Are there similarities? Are there differences? What do the two look like? How do they compare?
Interesting question. You got to understand that in Dallas, gosh, so many companies are moving there. People are intense. It's competitive. And so I think some of these entrepreneurs are, putting a lot of pressure on themselves in Dallas specifically, just because of what they see. We got to sit down with the CEO of GE, and he's telling his story. How do you not think like, how can I be like, how can I apply that, when you're trying to build your own business? And so you're in these leaders casting such a big shadow, not in a negative way, but there's, and you get exposed to that directly. And so, it can be very competitive and intimidating. And I feel like I don't have that experience as much when I'm interacting with the entrepreneurial community in Arkansas. It's so much more accepting. Well, I won't be not like that, because accepting is the wrong word, because in Dallas as well, we're all supporting each other. It's just a different mindset of how you approach business. And so I will say that I'm in the community, so I'm not just like puppeteering it, right? I'm in it too. I'm one of them. And so I'm just speaking from the perspective on the inside. But that is an interesting question. I need to think harder about that. But, they're actually way more similar than they are different. We're all entrepreneurs, because we're excited to brainstorm. We have exciting ideas. The execution is where we might get a little bit like, I don't know. Just that's how entrepreneurs are. But dang, we can think on our feet. And that's why a lot of people who are hiring today, They're saying, they're not like, we need more data engineers, we need more project managers. They need more leaders. And entrepreneurs are naturally, they've always had that bug, they have that itch. And so regardless where you are, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you probably have the key ingredient that is the most highest in demand, which is you can think for yourself, you can deal with uncertainty, and you have ideas. And in the world of ChatGPT, those things are precious. And that's true for Northwest Arkansas or Dallas.
I appreciate your honesty with your answer. I was setting you up perfectly for the Northwest Arkansas is so much better than Dallas. Oh my goodness, it's the best entrepreneurial community in the world. But I do appreciate your honesty. You guys made the 5-year mark. What does the next 5 years look like for you in EO space?
Continue to grow, specialize more. So we've been a little, I won't say a generalist, but, we've served a lot of different clients, a wide diversity of clients. And in order to compete, we need to think about how we're specializing and how we're developing a very specific expertise. So we've gotten a lot more work specifically within consumer packaged goods. That's been where we've been leaning into. And, in the beginning, we were working with a variety of consumer brands. I mean, we designed merch for Bonnaroo, a music festival. And we actually designed some merch for a format festival as well in Arkansas. And we worked with a lot of nonprofits. That was what we were doing in the beginning, and a lot of arts and entertainment. And so now, we're specializing further within CPG, but specifically within consumer packaged goods like beverages, alternative foods, et cetera. We want to continue to work at a B2C level. So we want to make ourselves available to exciting business to consumer ventures. But I see us really leaning mostly into the CPG space, maintaining our office in Arkansas, and we're not going anywhere for sure. And continuing to expand our network within Arkansas as well. I would say maybe about 70, and this is just off the brain, so this number might not be right, but I'd say maybe about 60 to 70% of our work is actually outside of Arkansas. And so I know that me and my partner, Matt McMillan, are talking to each other about how can we get more involved and support the business community more. And that's nobody's fault. It's just, we've just been getting opportunities as we can. We leverage online, whatever. But now we want to share our story a lot more with the community. And we've worked with things like Crystal Bridges, Format, so we've supported the institutions there, but there's also a lot of entrepreneurs we haven't met yet. A lot of small business we haven't met yet. And so, how can we knock on their door or they knock on ours and have some fun? And so, hopefully that's in the future too.
Yeah. I know we're excited to see your growth, these next couple of years. Jeff, you want to land the plane?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is if you've watched any of the 400 and some episodes, we are kind of like a broken record in that we ask the same question every time. But if you were to take all that accumulated wisdom that you have now, having run EO Space for 5 years, and you could go back to the start of that journey, what advice would you give your younger self?
I love it. That's a good question. And, one, I think I'd tell myself, these days are so much funner than you realize, because it's really, you really harness power in those initial moments. You don't realize it. But two, I would say, hey, planning is cool, but go get the deal. That product is cool, but see if someone will buy it. Proof of concept, when I talk to these entrepreneurs, they're thinking about my product, how is it going to evolve over the next 3 years? How are we going to compete? Go talk to your market, see if they're interested, see what they'd pay for it. And then once you can tell the world, this many people would pay for it, or we got these deals, business becomes a lot easier. And so I'd spend a lot of time planning, thinking, strategizing. But it would have been better if I just got out there, shook a hand, and brought in a deal, brought in a relationship, and learned.
Take action. You're going to learn more from your customers, right? That's great.
Every time.
Yeah, that's great advice. Jeff, I saw you get excited when he said that.
Oh, yeah.
That was good advice.
Cool.
Well, to any of our audience that wants to know more about you or more about EO Space, where can they go to check you out?
Yeah, www.e-o.space. And I say .space spelled out. So SPACE, not .space part. And that's where, we get a lot of inquiries, but, you can also find us on at 1030 South College Street in Fayetteville. Come knock. Nice little building. It was a former church. We just moved out of our office in Springdale, which was a former church. It was beautiful. A little too big for our liking, though. And so we scaled down a little bit just because it was more reasonable. And so you can find us there. You could probably find us lurking around the city. And also our Instagram. Yeah, lots to play. You'll find us.
We'll make sure that we'll tag everything in the show notes for you.
It sounds like you've got divine guidance, right? From one former church to another. So that's a good guy to have on your side.
Oh, yes. Just to say, we walk in faith. The Lord is, that's where it starts for us. So we've also seen that as a sign. It's interesting. But we won't, maybe for another segment.
That sounds good. Hey, thanks so much for coming on. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share with a friend. Subscribe and review because it matters to us and we want to hear from you. If you're interested in learning how to work with us, check out the information below. See you next week.